How's it going, everybody? Goldhead here, and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be entry 29 of my Mafia Definitive Edition Achievement Walkthrough Guide. In this entry, we are going to be focusing on all the cigarette cards. There's going to be 22 in total, and we are going to start off in the campaign first from the chapter select, and then we'll grab all those ones in free ride. So let's jump right in. First up, in Chapter 4, Ordinary Routine, we are going to find our first card, and that's going to be out here in the back where we got to go collect that money. Here is the card, and we are ready to move on. Next up is going to be in Chapter 5, Fair Play. Once we get the guard to come down here to let us into the car, we can come into this little shed and we will find our second cigarette card. Next up in Chapter 7 is going to be Better Get Used to It. We are going to have a card over here on the left side of the bar. When we have the shootout, we can just run over here and grab it, and here it is. Next up in Chapter 8, The Saint and the Sinner, we are going to have two cards in this mission. The first one is going to be right when we walk into the cat house, and it is going to be in one of these rooms over here on the right. Next up, at the very end of The Saint and the Sinner, when we're walking out of the church, in the right hand side of the door, we can find our next cigarette card. Next up in Chapter 9, A Trip to the Country, right when we start to go investigate for the car, we can come over here on the right under these awnings and we will find our sixth cigarette card. Next up in Chapter 10, we are going to have a cigarette card right over here on the left. Right after we have to go to the hangar to meet Frank, we can just come over here, and once we get through this hallway, we can make a right and we will find our next cigarette card. Next up is going to be Chapter 11, Visiting Rich People. Once we get into the house, we can come over here to the right, we'll take another right, and in this doorway, we will find our next cigarette card on this poker table. Next up is going to be Chapter 14, Happy Birthday. Once we meet up Sam and he tells us to go get that sailor outfit, we can hang a right real quick, and on this desk, we will find our next cigarette card. Next up is going to be Chapter 15, You Lucky Bastard. Once we blow up the car, we get back to the diner for that shootout and we chase them all the way back here. Once we get midway through this area, we can come over here to the right. You might already have this one if you picked up that ammo in the Molotov, and it is right there. For our next one, it is Chapter 16, Creme de la Creme. Before we get into the airport hangar, we can come over here to the right, and it's on these log pile. Next up is going to be Chapter 17, Election Campaign. Once we've already done the assassination, we are going to come through these cells and we're going to fight off a couple cops. And I think it's the third set of cells. Once we get in that hallway, we can go into one of them and it's going to be right over here on this mattress. Next up is going to be Chapter 18, Just for Relaxation. Once we get into the first warehouse and we take out this little cop right here, we can go down all the way to the end of the hallway on the right and we will find our next cigarette card in the windowsill. Next up is Moonlighting in Chapter 19. Once we get the manager all the way down before we get into the safe, after we take out these guards, we can just turn around and there's another room over here to our left and it will be right here on the right. And once we go into this cell, we will find our next cigarette card. So right off the bat in Chapter 20, The Death of Art, we can turn right around and here is our next cigarette card. So now for our last one in the campaign, it's going to be in Chapter 20, The Death of Art. Once we start getting into that shootout, we're going to be in this room. We're going to go all the way to the windowsill, and we will have it right here. So for the rest of them, we can start up free ride, and once we do start up free ride, we can stop right now at the headquarters. We can come over here. If we go up these stairs, we will find our next cigarette card. Now, there is one across from the bar, and it's downstairs. This one might have been a mandatory in a mission, so I didn't include it because you might already have it. But if you don't, make sure you run downstairs and you will find cigarette card number 18 right across from the bar in a booth. But here's cigarette card number 17. Next up for cigarette card number 19, it is going to be in the central island. Here's the location on your map. And once you arrive, it is going to be next to a guy sitting on a bench right over here next to this concrete wall. Now we can head over to North Park. Here's the location on your map. And once we arrive, we can go down some stairs, and it's going to be next to a dining area. For this next one, we are going to stay in North Park as well. It is going to be at the mechanic. Here's the location on your map. And once we go in here, right when we go in, it is going to be on the right. And for our last one, it is going to be at the top right of your map at the warehouse. Here's the location on the map. And once we arrive, we're just going to go through the gate and we're going to hang a right and it will be straight ahead of us. And that is going to be 22 for 22 of this Mafia cigarette cards. Like always, I hope this walkthrough guide has been super helpful. If it has been, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you have any questions at any time, you can drop a comment down below, or you can hit me up personally on my Instagram. The link is in the description box, and I will see you guys next time. Gold Hat, signing off.